How's it going, everybody? No Elsa music today, I don't believe. We'll see, though. Jeff Zahler, Zahler Properties. Welcome to episode 21 of ZPLive, coming to you live on our Facebook channel as well as our Instagram channel, or feed, or whatever we want to call it. I'm still really bad at that. Hope everyone's doing well. Wanted to talk today about something that has been talked about a lot in the news, and talked about a lot wherever you go. It's the tax plan, and we're not obviously going to get into the whole proposed tax plan, but one of the big items that people have been talking about is that primary residence and the tax savings that you get now versus what is proposed. So again, I'm not a CPA. I'm not a tax attorney, so I always say consult your CPA or tax attorney. But we do spend a lot of time talking about this stuff, and we do have a good amount of knowledge that we want to pass on to our clients, especially in the Las Vegas, Henderson area. Fact of the matter is, in the tone for this is even with the new proposal, it won't hurt probably as much as people think. I actually have the whiteboard behind me because I can do a little bit of easy math for some people to talk about, and that way they have a better idea of really what could happen if this does go into effect. So for those of you that don't know, our current situation is such that if you own a primary residence and you have lived in that home for 2 of the last 5 years as a primary residence, when you go to sell the property, there is currently a tax incentive and a tax break that you will not have to pay the capital gains on the property if you have lived there 2 of the last 5 years as a primary residence. Now, there are some hurdles and there's some limits. Now, if you are filing as a single individual, that limit would be $250,000 of gains on the home you wouldn't be taxed on. And if you're filing as a married couple, it would be $500,000. So those numbers are really, they sound great, right? But in the Las Vegas area, where our median home price is really only about $265,000, we're not going to see those really big numbers. Now, we do see gains and everything. The other thing to keep in mind is that's not the actual tax break. The tax break is what you would have normally paid for with capital gains is what you would save. And again, I'm sure some of you, I'm starting to talk numbers and percentages, and it's going over your head, so I will try to make it as easy as possible. So that's the current plan, right? The current plan is you could essentially, if you really wanted to, move every 2 years in one day. Any proceeds that you make that's a profit under that $250,000 or $500,000 threshold, you could basically not pay taxes on, which is wonderful. So especially when the market is increasing, you can move, buy a new house, not pay taxes on it, what have you. So that's been a really good process, and I do know several people that especially when the market was coming along, they would be moving every 2 years to take advantage of that. So what the current proposal is instead of going 2 years out of every 5, it would now be you have to live in your home 5 years out of an 8-year period. It doesn't have to be 5 consecutive years. And currently, it doesn't have to be 2 consecutive years. It's 2 of the last 5. So technically, you could live in the house for a year, rent it out for 2 years, and live in it again and sell it and take advantage. The proposal is to go to 5 out of 8. So what that means is it's basically promoting longer home ownership, or for lack of a better term, instead of promoting, it's actually putting a hindrance on those people that want to move more frequently. Again, Las Vegas is a little bit different, and our pricing is not as high as, say, like the Southern California area or the Bay Area or New York or anything like that. The other thing to keep in mind is the actual average length of home ownership currently in the United States is 13 years. So for most of you out there, this is not going to affect you whatsoever. It's really going to affect the people that, like I said, are into that nomadic lifestyle, if you will, right? They are okay living in a place for 2 years, taking some money on, and some profits, and moving on. So I want to kind of just put an example together of what you're really talking about paying if you do have to pay. So if this does get passed, and again, it's still a proposal, it has not been passed yet, but everybody's been talking about it. If it does get passed, how is this going to affect you? Do you all of a sudden have to say, oh man, we just hit our 2-year window and now I have to live in my house for 3 more years. The actual tax number that you're probably talking about is pretty inconsequential. Granted, we all know nobody likes to pay taxes. I get that. We all get that. But, it's do I move now? Do I take a profit while the market's good and move and pay a little tax? Or do I ride it out and live in the house for another 3 years? That's up to you to decide. We can talk about that. But want to put some numbers together to give somebody an idea. So I'm going to use basically the median sales price numbers for Las Vegas because that, again, is the median. It's kind of the where the market is. So our current market median is $265,000. And I'm going to round some numbers just to make this a little bit easier. So say like you actually can sell your house for $275,000 today, okay? And say like 2 years ago you bought the house for $225,000, which was about the median price 2 years ago, okay? So right now, currently, and I know this is crooked, but it is what it is. Right now you're talking about a $50,000 gross profit, okay? So in today's world, you've owned the home for 2 years, you're good. You've made $50,000 or so, and we're going to talk about how that or so what that means. You're not taxed on it. Not a big deal. You get to move on, and you're great. Say like the law passes, and all of a sudden you've lived in the house 2 years and a day, and you're planning on selling, but now I can't sell the house because I have to wait 3 more years. You don't really have to. So realistically, if you had bought your house for $275,000, you sell it for $225,000, you're left with a $50,000 number. The average capital gain for most of us is only 15%, okay? So really, you're not paying a $50,000 bill. That's just your capital gains number. You've made $50,000 on that. 15% of that $50,000 would be your tax bill. That's your $7,500. So is it worth you to stick around in the house for 3 extra years? Granted, you may actually make more money, right, on it. You could also lose more money. Or sell the house, pay the government $7,500, no more than that, and I'll talk to you about what I mean by no more than that, and move on with your life. So it's not the big number. It's the gain that you would, it's the tax on the gain that you would pay. That's the real number we're talking about. Now, that's why I say that's the most. The IRS, and again, this is where I always say I am not an attorney, I'm not a CPA, but this is something that we've looked at, and you can consult with your attorney or CPA when you're thinking about selling. We'll take what your cost basis of your property is as a difference. So say like you did buy the house for $225,000, great, right? You put new appliances in, you put a new backyard in, you remodeled something, right, over the last couple of years. So say like, let me erase this. So you still can sell it for $275,000, but say like you bought it for, like I said, $225,000, but that $225,000 you actually put in, we'll call it just $10,000 you put into the property. If you can actually prove and state that you actually put money into improvements on the property, that actually will raise your basis. So instead of now selling it for $275,000, you're not looking at a $50,000 difference, you're looking at a $40,000 difference, okay? 15% of $40,000 is actually $6,000, so you would owe the IRS $1,500 less than you would without that. So that's just one thing for people to consider. Have I made any improvements to the property that actually can raise my tax basis and my cost basis? The other thing, and again, I always talk to clients about this, and again, how many times am I going to say I'm not a CPA or an attorney today? A lot, right? I'm not a CPA, I'm not an attorney. I don't even want to play one on TV. I'm just somebody that went to the University of Arizona. I don't know. You can also, I believe, reduce your cost of closing. So if you sell the house for $275,000 and you pay normal commissions and everything like that, we know you're not netting $275,000. You may actually be netting $260,000. Okay, and so you net $260,000. Your cost basis, with this example, is $235,000. All of a sudden, your gain that you thought was $50,000 is really only about $25,000. Half that is what it was. You're talking about $3,750. Okay, not a huge difference. Again, theme. Nobody likes to pay the tax guy. We get it. But instead of thinking, oh my gosh, I have this huge tax bill, with a little planning and a little processing with somebody like us that knows the numbers and a good tax attorney and CPA, your number is really closer to $3,700, right? It's maybe 2 months worth of payments on the property. You're not looking at this $50,000 tax bill, right? What you make on your money was a good, solid investment. If you've owned the property longer than 1 year, it's a good, solid investment that is eligible for capital gains, not ordinary income. So when you put this all together, put it as a process, not just a, hey, we got to sell one house, but think of it as the whole picture of your ownership of the property. You're taking a thought of, oh man, I have to hold this house for 3 more years to avoid taxes. Or you say, you know, this is kind of what we did. We want to move on with our life. This may be the tax bill we have to pay. And that's what you need to start thinking and analyzing before you decide to whether you hold off on the property or you sell it today. So again, this is the Vegas numbers. If we were in Los Angeles or anything and we were actually adding a zero, so instead of 265,000, we're talking about 2.65 million. Yeah, numbers can get a little bit different, but this show, because we're located here, is obviously really skewed more towards the Las Vegas market and everything. So as a Las Vegas resident, again, nobody likes to pay the tax guy, but if this does get processed and proposed and actually passed through as they're suggesting, you're talking about a few $1,000s of taxes is what it would cost to sell it before the 5-year period. So that's where we are. That's what we're advising our clients when they are talking to us about whether we need to sell it or hold, or do we have to hold. It's really what you buy it for, how much have you put into the house, what kind of tax threshold are you looking at? And if you're an investor that has other, if you have stock market investments or this or that, this just becomes part of your game. And you may have losses to offset it. You may have this, you may have that. So don't be scared of the tax number. It's, as you can see, it's really not a big, huge number compared to what some people are thinking. If you are in a position where you're thinking about selling versus holding a little bit longer, we would love to discuss this with you as part of what we do with our, with our business and with our clients. And if you have any questions, we'd love to talk to you. You can reach us at 702-758-4699. You can also email me at info@zahlerproperties.com. That's ZAHLER properties.com. A little bit longer of a Facebook Live today, but I know this is a real hot topic lately, and I wanted to kind of address it and say, look, the sky's not falling. Nobody likes to pay taxes. What are the themes today? Nobody likes to pay taxes, and I'm not a CPA. But that's where we are, right? So we'll see what happens with the legislation, and if it does happen, especially here in the Las Vegas market, the sun will come out again tomorrow. It's really not that big of an issue. But that's it for today, episode 21. We'll talk to you all next Wednesday, and until then, have a great week. And if you have any questions, let us know. Thanks.